So wonderful.
Right. Hi everyone, my name is Leah. I am currently working at West Pratt Public School. I've been working there for about 12 years. I teach grade 2 there. And initially I was hired to teach ESL. And as we were talking earlier, we were saying that, well, in TDSB, ESL is creatively used in the school. So initially I was hired as a full-time ESL teacher. I taught full-time ESL for, I think, 1 year before it started to become creatively used. Then I started teaching .5, I was teaching music at another school. And then I decided, okay, I was done with that and I was going to go back into the classroom, and I felt I could do a better job as an ESL teacher in the regular classroom. Before that, I taught in the Ottawa Carleton School Board. I taught ESL and in the regular classroom. And I did a couple stints overseas. I taught in Hong Kong for 1 year, and I also taught for a couple months at a refugee hospital in Thailand. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I'm Katie Brubaker. I teach ESL in a middle school, Darcel Avenue Senior Public School in Appeal Board. We were talking about all the pressures that are put on you as an ESL teacher to do things other than ESL for the school, and how often schools use their ESL package creatively for special ed programs, for vice principals, and it's hard, and there's a lot of advocacy, and a lot of that is just me protecting my position and the kids, and I have to constantly fight for that. That's the reality of the system.
Hi, I'm Mia. I teach high school, so I don't have to fight for anything. My job is an ESL teacher, and I started off teaching adult ESL. I also have my TESOL certification. Yeah, that's about it. I've been teaching for, I think, almost 10 years, and I teach in York Region. The school's called Thornley. You probably know it. It's pretty famous because Gian Gomeshi went there.
Oh.
I mean, maybe Victoria, sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
What else? I used to teach in Markham at another school called Middlefield, and they have really different populations of students. So one is more, I was teaching refugee students from Sri Lanka, and then Thornley has all international students from China with visa students. So we'll talk about them later in the specific questions, but I've taught like a variety of ESL courses and students because the course is based on the students.
Ryan, over to you.
Alright, I can mostly hear you guys, so I don't know if I'm going to say the right kinds of things, but I'm just going to try and copy. I am currently an ESL teacher at West Prep. I service kids mostly from grade 3 to 6, but I see some grade 2s as well. I taught in Taiwan for a few years in an English kindergarten mostly, and so that was my previous experience before starting this ESL position. I find that the population here is pretty diverse of ESL students, and there's a wide range of English abilities. I think that's all.
So our first question that we sent out was the idea of what are the realities of teaching ELL learners in the Ontario classroom? What are some of the realities to help us understand in your context?
Should I begin? I thought I would start with a little story of how ESL was set up in the Ottawa Carleton School Board at my particular school. I was thrown together with another teacher, and we were told that we were going to team teach in a classroom. We were given a big classroom. It was formerly the machine or the machine shop. So my colleague Kelly, she had to teach junior ESL in one corner of the classroom, and I taught primary ESL in my corner of the classroom. And we were both very passionate about ESL. We were a little tentative about working together, but in the end we discovered that we were both very passionate about teaching ESL. So we decided to turn the classroom into a little bit of like a community center, like an ESL hub. And there was a welding bay, and we turned the welding bay into like a little living room with cushions and books, and we tried to make it a really comfy space. We told the students that they could come to the ESL classroom with their friends at recess time or at lunchtime, so that they didn't feel when they arrived that they had to go out in the big wide world of recess on the yard and try to find someone to play with. Instead, we created kind of like a safe haven in our classroom. We hosted World on Your Plate dinners, where we invited parents to come with their students in the evening to have like a potluck dinner. And that was an opportunity for, not only for us as teachers to connect with the parents, but for parents to connect with each other and find a support system with each other. So after that teaching experience, I was so excited about teaching ESL, I came here to OSE to study with Antoinette and Mira. And then after I was done, I started working in the TDSB. And the first thing I was given when I was hired to teach ESL was no classroom. So I didn't have a classroom, I didn't even have an office space. I just kind of floated around. Sometimes I was supporting teachers in the classroom, sometimes I was working in the back of the library, sometimes if there was a free space, I would just grab it and take my students in there. And so I had to sort of figure out ways to support my ESL students without having that physical community space. And so I think that's important, that no matter what position you're going to be in after you graduate, that your job as a teacher, whether an ESL teacher or a regular teacher, is to try to create that safe space for students by maybe connecting with them and talking to them about their experiences with immigration, connecting with their parents, allowing them to bring a friend to ESL, to the ESL class. So you have to be a little bit creative about what you do with students.
So, talking a little bit about like the different models you've been through, I know when I started at my current school, they had kind of like a SciEP class, which you've been learning about, where they had the ELL learners together in one class. And I would team teach and work directly with the classroom teacher. We would plan after school. I'd spend most of my day with one or two classes, working together with the teacher to kind of plan and assess. And we did that for a number of years, but you know, there's always different forces and you're not sure why people are making choices, but they didn't want to have all the ESL kids in one class. And they moved towards having them spread out throughout the 6 or 7 different classes in my school. And so when that happened, I actually couldn't physically create a schedule where I could be in each class once even per week. So I moved more towards a withdrawal model where I worked with kids in small groups. You know, we kind of moved back and forth between these models throughout the years. Sometimes you'll have teachers and they'll have a large group of kids in their class and you'll really work and team teach with that teacher and go in the room and do a lot of programming, and then other times it's just not working and you kind of work with the kids in small groups. Yeah, I mean, it's just there's a lot of negotiation and figuring out what's right for the kids.
So the reality that I realized after graduating from Teachers College and going to work was that you can do anything you want. And no one, I mean, like, you're responsible for either teaching or not teaching or making the kids happy or comfortable or not. So really the reality is you can do, I mean, within the reason, like legality and whatever, but it's totally up to you, right? So no one's going to tell you not to do it and no one's going to encourage you. So you really just have to say, like, what's your goal for the students, and then what do they want, what do they need, and figure that out, because, yeah, you're on your own. That's the reality. Like, there's some books in some schools, and some schools don't have books, and sometimes I bought a whole class set of a book because and with my own money. Like, so the reality is that there are some places are going to be helpful, and some people will, and some people won't. Some students are going to be awesome, and some are not. And like, it's just how you imagine everything in life. That's how school is going to be for you. So whatever you decide to do, it's going to be that way. I've had like 1,000 different experiences, I'm sure you guys have too. So there's no one I can tell you of a reality. The reality just is that like, it's going to be some way, and you're going to have to fit it to whatever you want.
Raya?
Hi. So currently at this school, they've grouped the ESL students so that all the grade 3 ESL students are in the same class, and so on through the grades. And that makes it a lot easier to do withdrawal if that's what you need to do, or to just join them in the classroom if that's what you need to do. And then I've noticed also that the range of ability in English really changes what kinds of activities and support that you can do with the kids, so that in my grade 3 group, there are 4 students, and one of them arrived a month ago, and the other ones have been here for 2 years. So I think that one of the challenges there is to find activities that can help all of the students, because the time is so precious. It's hard to see everybody as many times as you'd like to in a week, and so it's really important to try and maximize what they can get out of that 40-minute period with you, whether that be you joining them in their classroom while they work on something, or you bringing them down to a quieter space to have a bit more concentrated instruction in English or English-based things. Because oral language usually develops first, I always like to have 1 period a week, if I can, where we just kind of chat about things, and then modeling good English behavior. The reason I do that is not only for oral language skills, but also to create that sense of community and sort of camaraderie. We'll play charades or do things like that, where I tell them, today's not a writing day. We're not reading anything. We're just gonna talk and play games, and that sort of gets them on board. So I did that at the beginning of the year, and now they're happy to come.